Have you ever wondered what happens when arrogance collides with dignity? When a man with all the money in the world decides to be a little someone, only to discover that respect and knowledge are worth more than gold. This is the story of a wealthy CEO and a young waitress he thought was beneath him. A story that begins with humiliation, but ends with a revelation that will leave you speechless. Stay until the very end, because the final twist will change the way you look at people forever. It was a crisp morning inside one of the city's most luxurious hotels. The dining hall sparkled with marble floors, golden chandeliers, and the faint scent of roasted coffee beans in the air. Wealthy businessmen, tourists, and socialites sat at polished wooden tables, sipping lattes and discussing their plans for the day. And then the doors opened. Richard Kingston had arrived. At 45, Richard wasn't just a man. He was an institution in the business world. A CEO of a multinational corporation. He walked with the swagger of someone who believed he owned not just the room, but the world itself. His tailored suit hugged his broad shoulders. His Rolex flashed under the light, and his eyes carried that cruel spark of arrogance only money can give. People noticed him the way they notice a thunderstorm on the horizon. Heads turned. Conversations paused. Even the staff straightened up. And that's when she appeared. Amara, just 22. Amara had been working as a waitress in the hotel restaurant for only 3 months. She was quick, polite, and always wore a gentle smile, even when exhaustion tugged at her face. Her skin glowed with a deep richness, her hair tied neatly back. Behind those soft brown eyes was a girl with dreams far bigger than the tray she carried in her hands. But dreams don't pay the bills. So Amara worked, day and night, serving people who often looked right through her, as if she were invisible. She approached Richard's table with her notepad ready. "Good morning, sir. May I take your order?" Richard leaned back in his chair, his smirk spreading slowly. He didn't just look at her, he examined her, as if she were a puzzle he didn't care to solve. Well, what do we have here?" he said loudly, his voice cutting across the room. "They actually hired you to work here. Tell me something. Can you even read what's written on that little pad of yours? Or are you just pretending?" A couple of men at the next table chuckled. Richard's voice carried so far that even the staff behind the counter froze for a moment. Amara's fingers tightened around her notepad, but her smile didn't falter. "Yes, sir? I can take your order just fine." Richard laughed, shaking his head. "Oh, don't be shy. Did you even finish high school? Or did you just walk in here off the street and they felt sorry enough to hand you a uniform?" The laughter at the nearby tables grew louder. Amara felt heat rush to her cheeks, but she stood tall. "Sir, what would you like to order?" she asked again, calmly. Richard tapped his finger on the table. Fine. I'll have a black coffee." He paused, grinning cruelly. "I'll wait. Black coffee served by the black waitress." "How poetic." The sound of his laugh filled the hall. Some people dropped their gaze in shame. Some pretended not to hear. Nobody spoke up. Amara bit her lip so hard it almost bled. Her chest tightened, but she refused to let her eyes water. Instead, she nodded, wrote down the order, and quietly walked away. But inside, a storm was brewing. For Richard, this was just another morning, another chance to display his arrogance. But for Amara, it was more than that. Because little did Richard know, the girl he had just mocked was not only educated. She carried something with her that could shatter his pride in an instant. A piece of paper, a story of perseverance, a truth that no amount of money could erase. And soon, Richard would learn a lesson he would never forget. The struggles and more humiliation. Amara walked toward the counter, her tray trembling slightly in her hand. Her lips were pressed tight, her heart beating like a drum in her chest. Behind her calm smile was a storm. She placed the order slip down for the barista, but her mind wasn't on the coffee. Her ears still rang with Richard's laughter, echoing like a cruel melody she couldn't escape. Black coffee for the black waitress. The words cut deeper than a knife. But she had learned long ago how to survive in silence. She had faced worse, nights of hunger, bills piling on the table, classmates who whispered behind her back. Every insult was a weight on her shoulders, but she carried them all, because she had no choice. Still, today felt different. Today's insult wasn't private, it was public, and every glance in that restaurant reminded her of it. Amara wasn't weak. No, she had fought too hard to be weak. But even the strongest hearts bleed when mocked in front of strangers. She returned to Richard's table with his coffee, placing the cup gently in front of him. "Your black coffee, sir." Richard leaned back, smirking again. "Wow, you can carry a cup without spilling it. Impressive." The two men sitting beside him laughed out loud, encouraging him like a pack of hyenas circling their leader. Amara didn't flinch. She only straightened her back and spoke calmly. "Would you like anything else, sir?" Richard tilted his head as if studying her like an insect under a magnifying glass. "Actually, yes. Tell me something. Do you ever dream of being more than this?" He gestured at her uniform with distaste. "Or is wiping tables the height of your ambition?" The restaurant grew quieter. Guests pretended not to stare, but their ears were sharp. They wanted to hear how this poor waitress would respond to the millionaire's cruelty. Amara looked him straight in the eyes. Her voice was steady, but her words carried weight. "Everyone dreams, sir, even waitresses." For a moment, Richard blinked. The confidence in her tone had caught him off guard. But arrogance was his armor, and he quickly recovered with a cruel smile. "Well, dreams don't pay bills. Trust me. I know. Look at me, CEO of one of the largest corporations in the country. You think anyone gets here by waiting tables? No. You need power, connections, money." He leaned closer, his fingers stabbing the air toward her. "And you? You'll never sit where I sit. People like you. You stay here, serving people like me." The words hung heavy in the air. Some guests shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. A mother at the corner table pulled her little boy closer, as if shielding him from Richard's poison. But Amara, she didn't crumble. Her heart pounded, her palms sweated, but her spirit refused to bow. Because Richard was wrong. Dead wrong. He thought he was untouchable. He thought wealth made him superior. But Richard Kingston didn't know who he was dealing with. Amara wasn't just a waitress. She was a fighter, a scholar, a woman who had clawed her way through darkness to find light. And hidden inside her bag was the very proof of it. A diploma, a piece of paper earned with sleepless nights and endless sacrifice. A truth waiting to silence his arrogance forever. But the time to reveal it was not yet. Not until his insults reached their peak. Not until the whole world was watching. Because sometimes the sweetest victory comes when humiliation turns into applause. The twist, the diploma reveal. The restaurant had fallen into an uncomfortable silence. Every insult Richard threw was like a stone splashing into still water, sending ripples across the room. Amara stood tall beside his table, her tray tucked against her hip, her eyes steady. She had endured enough. Richard sipped his coffee with exaggerated slowness, as if savoring not the drink, but the humiliation he was serving her. "You see, sweetheart," he said, his voice dripping with arrogance, "this is the real world. People like me win. People like you. Well, you bring the coffee?" The men at his table burst into cruel laughter, but then Amara placed her tray down. Her hand slid to her bag, resting quietly near the counter. The guests watched with sharp eyes. Something was about to happen, something no one expected. Amara's voice cut through the hall, calm but powerful. "You may have money, sir, but money can't buy respect. And respect is something I've earned." Richard raised his eyebrow, amused. "Oh, really? Respect? Enlighten us, then. Tell us, how exactly has a waitress earned respect?" Amara didn't answer with words. She pulled out a carefully folded document from her bag. Slowly, deliberately, she opened it. The paper caught the chandelier light, its golden seal shimmering. The chatter in the restaurant stopped altogether. Forks froze midair. It was a diploma. Not just any diploma, an honors degree in business administration from one of the top universities in the country. Gasps filled the room. Amara held it high, her hand steady, her chin lifted with pride. "I'm not just a waitress," she said, her voice clear and unwavering. "I worked nights, I worked double shifts, I studied until my eyes burned. And I earned this diploma with no favors, no shortcuts, and no handouts." The restaurant erupted into whispers. Strangers leaned forward, stunned by the strength in her words. Richard froze. The smirk slid off his face. His mocking eyes widened, reflecting the seal on that diploma. For the first time, he was speechless. Amara stepped closer, her voice now sharp and unshakable. You mocked me for serving tables. But remember this, sir. Service is not weakness. Hard work is not shame. And dignity, she raised the diploma higher, is something no amount of money can ever buy. The guests broke into applause. A few clapped softly at first, then louder, until the entire restaurant echoed with thunderous approval. Richard's face turned crimson. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His finger, once so confidently pointed, now trembling as he lowered it. His arrogance had shattered like glass on marble. In that single moment, the balance of power shifted. The mighty CEO, who believed wealth made him untouchable, was crushed not by money, but by the unshakable dignity of a young woman he thought was beneath him. But this was only the beginning, because what Amara said next would not only silence Richard, it would teach everyone in that restaurant a lesson they would carry forever. The restaurant grew colder, as if the weight of silence had crushed every laugh, every whisper. The CEO's face twisted with fury. He jabbed a finger at the waitress, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. CEO angrily, do you really think serving drinks makes you equal to us? You're nothing more than a waitress. Nothing. Gasps echoed around the room. Some guests looked away, embarrassed. Others leaned forward, eager for more drama. But the waitress didn't flinch. Her eyes locked on his, steady, unshaken, almost glowing with quiet fire. She straightened her back, her voice calm but strong. Waitress firmly, you judge me by this uniform, by the tray in my hands. But you don't know me. You don't know what I've earned. The CEO laughed bitterly, shaking his head in disbelief. CEO mocking. Earned. Don't tell me you've got something that could impress me. Every guest leaned closer now, forks frozen in midair, breaths held tight. The tension was so thick it felt like the walls themselves were listening. And then, with slow, deliberate hands, she reached into her small leather bag behind the counter. She pulled out a folder, placed it flat on the nearest table, and slid out a piece of paper, thick, embossed, shining under the golden lights. The CEO's eyes narrowed as he glanced at it. His laughter died instantly. His jaw dropped. It wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a diploma, a master's degree from one of the world's most prestigious universities. Waitress calmly, with pride. This is who I am, not your servant, not your stereotype. I worked my way through nights like these, to stand where no insult can break me. The CEO's face had gone pale. His lips moved, but no words came out. For the first time, the arrogant man who mocked her stood silent. The guests exchanged glances. Whispers of admiration rippled across the room. Some even began to clap, slowly at first, then louder, filling the restaurant with thunderous applause. The waitress stood tall, diploma shining in her hand, her voice steady but commanding. Waitress' final words, looking straight at him. You thought I was beneath you. But tonight, you've learned respect is worth more than money, and education can silence even the loudest arrogance. The camera zooms in on the CEO's face, his pride shattered, his eyes lowered in defeat. The applause grows. People rise from their seats, nodding to the waitress with admiration. She takes one step closer to him, her eyes never leaving his. Waitress with a quiet but powerful smile. Next time, think before you judge. Close-up shot of the CEO's trembling hands, clutching his expensive watch, powerless against her truth. And as the screen fades to black, bold words appear. Never underestimate anyone. Respect costs nothing, but it means everything. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that open eyes and change hearts.